Hey, AfterBuzzers. If you didn't know, it's Kevin Undergaro, the executive producer of AfterBuzz, along with my partner, Maria Menounos.
Hi, everybody.
And Maria and I, as you know, have put so much time and money into the AfterBuzz TV product and really haven't seen a lot in return.
Nope, not yet.
But one of the ways you guys can actually help us is by tuning into our new reality show, Chasing Maria Menounos. It premieres Tuesday, March 18th, 10 o'clock, 9 p.m. Central, and features me and Maria basically bickering, fighting.
No, it's not just bickering and fighting. You get an inside look into my life, behind the scenes.
You'll also get a behind-the-scenes look at AfterBuzz.
It's really funny. It's not just bickering, and it's not fake either. So that's actually something
no.
to think about.
It's definitely not fake. It's definitely not fake. But please tune in to Chasing Maria Menounos on Oxygen, Tuesday, March 18th at 10 p.m. All of your support will help AfterBuzz because Maria certainly won't.
So rude.
You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies.
This is AfterBuzz TV's True Detective After Show.
We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show.
It's AfterBuzz TV's True Detective After Show.
Yes.
One last time.
One last time. The lovely music that reminds us that it's time for the True Detective AfterBuzz After Show. Show number 8, episode number 8.
Form and Void.
Form and Void?
Form and void.
Yes. Form and void.
And the earth was without form and void, and
Yes.
darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
Yes. Episode 8, True Detective. Thank you for joining us, the AfterBuzz After Show. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm joined, as always, by the lovely Julia Cearley.
Hi, Braswell. Hi, Flippo. Hi,
What's up,
everybody.
Julia Cearley?
What's up?
And Joe Flippo, of course.
What's up, everybody? Screw you, Joe Braswell.
Yeah, no Nando today. No Nando. Nando will not be a part of the True Detective After Show until next year. So there,
There's
he didn't
always
make
next
it.
season.
That's right. So let's get into this. I don't. There's a lot of things to talk about. Let's do some house cleaning first because we got just murdered. Rightfully so. Murdered. In loving ways sometimes, and sometimes not so loving ways.
There was a couple loving ones. Like, hey guys, it's cool.
Yes.
It's to be understood.
We made the fatal mistake of using Childress last week.
I'm gonna take the fall for this one, guys. I started it. You jumped on the bandwagon. This was my bad. I caught it in my notes.
But
We
all
didn't
know
correct
better.
you.
We didn't correct you. In fact, I followed you right around the
It
cliff.
wasn't
We all did.
Childress. It was Geraci. A
So
different sheriff.
we got
from
our
a different
sheriffs
time.
mixed. Yep.
Tracy, we know. But sorry.
Sorry,
Internet, and that discredits all of us as human beings, but we still love the show.
It's funny because that's the nature of the internet, though. I mean, it's because they're horble people.
Yes.
Like that's the next step. But
Call yourself fans.
I think we were horrible people before that.
yeah, it had nothing to do with Steve Tracy.
So I want to talk about. We'll talk about what happened in the episode. Obviously, we'll get all into that stuff. But also, we'll kind of zoom back and talk about what an amazing piece of work this was for an anthology series. 8 hours. I mean, that was some ish, man. They did a great MFN job on this series, and I was not disappointed. There was a week of wild theories as to what could happen.
Insane speculation.
I mean, the internet was everything from Rust faked the first murder so he can go investigate his daughter.
And Marty's dad, Marty's father-in-law was going to be the Yellow King.
Yes.
I gotta say, I was telling you guys this earlier. Of all the shows we do, never once have I been, as I said, debunked on every single theory and prediction that I could possibly come up with. Every single one. None of them came to fruition.
That's the sign of a good show.
I do want to say that most of mine were right. I'm just saying.
Who cares?
Stretch. Okay.
So let's jump into this. So we have our detectives finally working together as in present day, doing their thing, trying to solve the crime. When we last saw them in episode 7, they had Geraci on the boat. and they, we were going to get some battery cable, some jumper cable at a time going on. And the boat, Joe, the boat. I love the boat.
The boat was slick.
I love everything that happened on the boat. I love the way they handled the boat. I love the idea of these guys actually coming in and, the way the interrogation was done, the way he made him sort of actually watch the tape.
Right.
Was insane, to me. Like that I love the way that whole thing played out. Like, no, don't look at me. Look at the tape.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, and it was very slick play out because now I got your fingerprints on this tape.
Yeah,
and so now you're pretty well fucked. So that's the way it's going to go.
But his reaction was the reaction we saw. We saw the same piece of tape that we saw at the beginning.
Yep.
And then we see the screams and the pull out. And I love how Hart just kind of goes outside, takes the beer, like, yep, I know how this is going to go.
You talked about this last week, how Nick and Carrie, they don't need to show the gore. They don't want to show the gore. It's not about that. It's more about the reactions. And so last week we saw Marty's reaction to this tape, and now we're seeing Geraci's. I got it right. Hey guys, Geraci. We saw Geraci's reaction to this tape, and just the weight that this tape holds. It's a game changer.
Well, and at the end of the day, there is nothing that they're going to be able to film that's going to be better than whatever we can come up with in our heads as far as what's there.
Sure.
Like, if you film it, then you've put a lid on it. Then you've said, this is the end of the horror of this thing.
Right.
But if you don't ever film it, there is no end to what we can imagine is on there.
It's infinite.
So that's where, and there's a lovely time lapse, too, that goes on. And each time somebody watches that video, so we can go, how long does it go on for?
Yeah.
How many guys are involved?
Yeah.
What else goes on?
The video's bad.
Sure.
The video's
Absolutely.
bad. There's giant screams. He comes back, and Geraci's very, very, very angry and very, he's disheveled. So that was a good sort of interrogation. That worked better than any kind of jumper cables.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of waterboarding would work, because he was like, I don't know. I had no idea.
Well, that was the thing, too. You've basically been like, listen, we don't care anymore. We're off the grid.
Right.
You're off the grid. And here's why. Because we've seen this. You haven't seen it yet, so here it is. And so now we'll pretty much do whatever we want to do at this point.
Right.
We're committed to this level, so I don't need to show you anything else.
Right. So that happens. They get pretty much all the info they needed. They do buy it. They do believe him. I really thought he was going to go, but I like the fact that they let him go. I thought they were going to kill him, of course. And then he did make that thing, like, we got to make this like an accident.
That was just to scare him, I think. That was just to scare him. Because he had his sniper. He had his buddy from the bar, the guy whose son went missing. He had the sniper all positioned already.
That was also cool as hell.
And
that was clutch.
And Geraci did. I'm going to use the name Geraci every chance
Fine.
I possibly get.
My new name is Geraci.
We get it.
He broke it down for them, though, which I think, maybe. I mean, this is the chain of command. Like, you understand. You were part of CAG.
He changed the report.
Force.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
me. This is the chain of command.
Like, you know how it goes.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He changed the report. He said he knew him. Mom had bugged out. She was gone. What was I supposed to do, man? There's nobody to go to. And then Ted got me into state CID. So I got into CID on Childress's recommendation. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but I love how the second he hit dry land, he was like back to being sheriff.
He sure was.
He was like, "This, you mother effers."
I think that Maserati gives him. It just gives him like, God, that is my goddamn Maserati.
Right.
You know what?
Oh,
Screw
he was
you
furious.
guys.
Well, once he made it off the boat and he realized they weren't going to shoot him and dump him, in the water, he's like, "You guys are dead." And even after he said, "You know what? We've got tapes. We've got your fingerprint on the videotape. We're gonna send this thing to the news. I got a sniper buddy." He was like, still not having it. They shoot up the car. He raises a hand. He shoots up the car, and he's still pissed. I'm gonna still get you. Like he can't like it.
He loves that car.
At some point, he would have been like,
Oh, it's a
"Okay,
beautiful car."
I was ready for him to go like, "Okay, guys, I'll be quiet." But no, he would not go down.
I gotta be honest with you though.
vinegar.
I think I would trust him more based on him popping off like that than based on him going, "Oh, it's cool."
Yes.
I wouldn't trust that guy. You know what? I want to say that we did not talk about.
Well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna go back.
Because
I got
a plan.
you, Joe. I got a plan. It's all right. You can do it though.
I know, man,
It's okay.
just
I'm over
asking.
here.
I care
Try
about
to
the young
drive.
people.
Try and drive something. We will go
That
back.
Maserati you got there, it's nice.
Shut up now.
Somebody have a
by
quarter
you.
ounce of-
Thanks for shooting up my Maserati, pal. It's all right. You can drive at 11 o'clock.
I appreciate it.
We did not talk about it purposely, but I wanted to I'll just continue us from last week. But the show didn't open from where we opened last week. The show opened horrifying to some horrifying imagery, horrifying conversation. I mean, I got to ask you, Joe. I mean, you want to make flowers today?
I do not want to make flowers, Joe.
You don't want to make flowers?
In fact, I could safely
we used to
say
make flowers all the time.
you and I are never going to make flowers.
Really?
Ever.
Oh man!
You only make flowers with your half siblings.
That
Okay.
is
That's the rule.
The rule only when they have
Only
siblings. We're
with
like
your
brothers.
little bit slow half siblings.
that was some ugly situation.
We got a very, very unfortunate and very revealing peek into the world of
Extraordinarily
Errol Childress.
Extraordinarily
The man
Spaghetti-
with the scars on his
Mr.
face,
Green-eared.
lawnmower man. Yeah,
We got a good world, and we found out he's not quite right in a lot of ways.
he's a little left up.
He's a little messed up.
He's speaking in a British accent.
Sometimes.
He's talking to his father, who is now. Is there a debate whether Papa Childress is dead or alive?
I don't.
Is it a psycho thing?
I was going with alive, just barely.
Just keeping there.
hang on.
Well, here's I'm with you, Julia, because my experience.
No chance.
My experience with our type of monkey, we break down and start smelling bad pretty quick.
Right.
And we turn different colors, and then we start leaking. So
Start leaking, that's true.
Dad was for the most part of a palish color, and he was not leaking. So, which led me to believe that maybe he's not quite dead, or he's recently dead.
So we took.
But it was smelly because they did have the little pine fresheners all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, we
With
took a
his
small
mouth
tour.
sewn shut.
Yeah.
I have to say, my job is to watch television, and we cover some pretty
Grim stuff.
gruesome, nasty, grim television shows.
We do.
Never before have I been so upset and so uncomfortable and so just 100% grossed out than I was in the first
5 minutes.
scene.
The first 5 minutes of that was like complete. I agree. The first 5 minutes had me completely, not only at the edge of my seat, not only dread, but then just like, no, I don't want a tour. I don't want a tour of the pre-Carcosa, children's
the
crib.
House of Madness. No.
I don't want a tour of that. Like that's that. It was. But I got the tour. We got the shed. We got the inside. We got the dolls.
The clothes.
Left over. We got the conversation. We got the conversation about making flowers. We got the British accent. We got back to the.
Well, let me make a comment about the British accent.
Oh, please.
Because I've gone a little further down the rabbit hole than perhaps is healthy, and I got the R.W. Chambers book, the King in Yellow.
The True Detective rabbit hole is deep.
It is, and I wouldn't say
the internet is infinitely deep.
I'm not going to say I'm anywhere near the bottom because I recognize that some people are pretty deep in it.
Sure.
But I've been reading this, and one of the characters in The King in Yellow, it seems to be the madness. If you read The Yellow King, if you read the play, the madness is a delusion. Like you become delusional about your position.
Right.
And so one of the characters, there's these two characters that kind of go back and forth, and they live in this squalor, but they think it's a palace, and they have this rusted thing they put on their heads, but they think it's this beautiful crown, and they have it in this gorgeous safe that doesn't exist. It's a flippin' basket.
Right.
So they're completely deluded, and they speak with high, lofty. That's part of the deal. Is this speech that Errol Childress is doing here is not necessarily just mimicking whatever's on TV. It's part of his delusion.
Yeah.
Is that he is the king. He's this master, and then he starts spouting out the Shakespeare.
Yeah.
If they had eyes to see, it's just all part of this delusion that he is this grand figure.
Until it's time to make flowers.
Oh, and then he gets creepy. Oh, yeah.
But then, when it's time to make flowers, there's a whole other voice.
So upset again.
There's a whole other situation.
I think the most unpleasant thing about this show, dead bodies notwithstanding, was those two making flowers. It was so unpleasant.
Those are the worst flower making situations.
It will never leave me.
Ever.
That will stick with me.
Well,
to the
eggs
day
are burning.
I die.
Well, that eggs are burning.
So I don't want to dwell on the flower making, but the thing that really gets him going is asking about
Grandpa.
Tell me about Grandpa.
Tell me about that time Grandpa caught you. Oh.
Yeah.
The warm soil.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Very
Let's move
disturbing.
on. Let's move on.
Everybody gets started different.
Moving on. Yes. So flowers were made.
Well, he also talks about his ascension, and we got to remember that he's going to remove him from the disc in the loop, and he's planning his ascension. So
yes,
and that's the thing.
Right. So we get back, and we get back to seeing, the stuff that I love, the stuff that makes True Detective is, Rust and Hart in the car, bantering like the good old days. I mean, they're they're officially repartnered up. They're officially on, being detectives again. Whether it's private detectives or not. They're in the car and they're working the case, and then the banter starts, and they're going back and forth. And nothing gives me greater pleasure than those two guys in the car. I mean, I don't know. That's just me.
Are we talking about the did you hold back? You talking about that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, there's the exchanges there. I mean, like 10 years later, you got to know. You want to know, did you hold back? Because, look, Hart knows that Cohle is a bad MF, right? So it's like, this guy's a bad dude. So you want to believe that, like, you go 10 years, like, I whooped his ass. Like, then you kind of think about, like, well, he is kind of maybe.
No, the whole thing. It just leaves you sick. I know,
Right.
You're like, I didn't do it right. And that scene was well done. I love Rust. I love the character, and we all want to believe we're Rust, but we're not. I think we're a country full of Martys. I think that's just the truth.
Yeah.
But I certainly am.
Well, we all want to believe we're like a version of both of those guys. In 1995, Rust and Hart. Those are cool cats.
Well,
1995 Rust and Hart.
I mean, comparing the two is
2012 Rust and
I
Hart.
don't really want to be Rust.
Nah.
Well, I think I
that's not
love
for
that.
me.
I love the idea of Rust. I mean, this is a guy who's uncompromising. He's when he's going to do something, he's going to do it all the way till the end. He's going to finish out his hero's quest.
You got to get your ponytail game up then.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I think distilled.
You got a long way to go.
I got to get the stash going too.
Stash needs some
and
Lone
he smokes
Stars.
camels. I could never smoke camels. That's tough.
Well, I'm gonna bring you camel in a Tiffany's box.
I appreciate that. But just I like the idea of him. Like uncompromising, always following through.
Fair enough.
That is a thing, and I think I'm much more of a Marty. I suspect most of us are.
Right.
Rust is an honorable man,
Yes.
if nothing else.
Well, here's what I'm at point. So Marty's giving him the get out of jail free card. She told me that she made you do it. It's not your fault. And he's like, no, I had a choice, Marty. We all have a choice.
Exactly. Well, a choice. It's not what you want to hear.
And it's like, not only did I not get to really kick your ass for real, now you're telling me, yeah, I did choose to bang your wife. But it's just who he is. He's gonna stay true to who he is.
This is how every single conversation with Rust and Hart goes, though. Some variation of of Hart trying to make sense of whatever Rust is doing. So he'll do some version of like, well, I mean, blah 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 blah, and then Rust will be like, actually, blah blah blah, and Hart will say, you're a real son of a bitch. You know what? You're a real asshole.
That's the thing. It's like we cling to our delusions because they give us for. I think that this is what this eventually becomes. And we get to it later on. But he says here as session meat, we craft our identity by making value judgments all the time.
Right.
Now that is. God damn it! If this show doesn't make you question whether or not there's anything more, it's like, hey, in case you were curious as to whether or not you're real, are you a real boy, Pinocchio, or is this a real thing? You're session meat, and you're making choices all the time. You're how does he say, loosely, a little bit lucid, whatever it is, and we make these value judgments. That's how we define ourselves.
Sure.
And then we think it through. You're like, yeah, shit, that's what we do.
Right.
All day, every day. And then we think we're real.
Right.
And this is, I mean, to me, it's terrifying. It's a terrifying concept. It just pulls back, pulls back the curtain, and you're looking at Oz. You're looking at, like, this might just be it. Is that all we are?
I mean, depending on what your beliefs are, but it does call into question a lot of things. I mean, we talked about the string theory stuff earlier. We talked about, there's a lot of, philosophical. I don't want to call it psychobabble, but Hart does. Rust does touch on a lot of stuff, especially in this last monologue.
Well, let me toss this out here as a thought, because this show ends in an extremely predictable way.
Well, I don't think so.
Oh, I think so. We didn't.
Really?
We didn't.
Well, let's go. Hold on. Before we get to the end, let's get this, because there's plenty of breaking down what the show means.
Okay.
What it is, what it didn't do, what it should have done. I mean, I've been reading it all morning about this show should have did this. This show was perfect. What about this? We thought they were gonna that. We can talk about that all day long. But what I do want to let's just get linearly, if I can even say it, which I can't, through the episode, because I want to talk about how they arrived at finding the spaghetti monster, finding my man, going to Carcosa, which is some good old-fashioned detective work done by Hart, and not Cohle this time. Not Rust.
Hart did the heavy lifting.
It hasn't been Rust in 2012.
Exactly.
It's been all Hart. I mean, with the urgings and the guidance,
right,
and the backstory that Cohle has provided him.
Sure.
But this time, not like 2002. This time, Hart is doing the legwork. Hart is making the connections,
Yes.
and he's the one solving this case.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, together they are, but he's the one doing it.
I think we touched on this last week, but this whole notion of like, of Russ saying like, you're nothing without me, I made you. I mean, maybe back in the day, as we said, Cole was doing all the heavy lifting, but Hart, I mean, I don't know if it's a case of like, maybe Cole's off his game slightly. He's just in this whole sort of, this whole thinking, he's more of a thinking, bigger picture, like, or maybe zoomed in too tightly. But what the cool thing is, they do need each other as a partnership, because Hart's a boots on the ground PI who's been doing this as a cop before then, now as a PI. So he's able to, with some fresh eyes, look at the situation and make some really good,
and he
cool
has the
moves.
Connections, access, and the history in that town.
This is why they're a team.
Well, it's between, they did it together, though. He says, we got to look at this as if we're green, and he goes, bing, green.
Right.
And then we look at the house. So they did do it together. I mean, it's together.
I don't know, but
I agree with you. Hart's pulling. He's pulling more weight than he was back in the day,
Yes.
for sure.
For sure.
Where he's not at the place where he's like, hey, type this up for me. I just interrogated the guy while you sat there on your.
Well, we saw his wheels turning. We was like, huh.
And let me
look at this.
Let me just toss this out there.
Toss it out
So
there.
we go out there and we interview the lady. We find out the kids are living there. It's Grandma's house. We go find Grandma at the old folks' home, and Grandma says we did have the house painted in 19. It was 95. 90.
Yes.
90 or 95. And it was for $250. Fair work for I'm like, $250 to paint the house?
Yes.
That was a small house.
I'm just saying.
Clearly,
95.
is this what about?
I'm just saying. Say what you want about those Childress boys, but they give you a hell of a deal on a house paint. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, Joe, you're so goddamn pragmatic. So wait, you didn't tell me like we got this show with all of this, all that's in this show to talk about, and you're hung up on the $250 house painting.
All I'm saying is it was a hell of a deal.
It's a hell of a deal.
That's all I'm saying.
I don't know how things work in rural Louisiana, but that's a hell of a deal.
All I'm saying is I felt that was a fair deal.
So they find this. They figure this out. They get the house. They go there. They find the location. We'll cut right to that point. And
did anyone else think that was a bit of a jump, though? All of a sudden, he remembers a picture of a house that was greener than the picture before. After 17 years ago, so the green house.
I don't know. I mean, to me, they just went through. He's been going through this evidence. They just pulled all those boxes. We got to assume that they've been sitting in this stupid office, like going over photo after photo and reviewing case file after case file and stuff that they've not only lived for the last 20 years, but also they're revisiting and going through.
Well, maybe that's just me being bummed because I thought my theory of the green ears being the headphones from a lawnmower, that was genius.
I thought it made a lot of sense.
I was
me
really
too.
bummed about that.
And I was shouting at TV. I'm like, it's the earphones. The earphones. Lawnmower man. Right, Julia? No.
Yet another one.
Green
debunked.
paint. No, but
it was a good one though. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I was with
it's
you.
paint.
So we had that, and so we did have that one last conversation that he had with I can't remember if it's which one of the guys it is. I'm not gonna dare butcher. Is it Gerbo? The two in the diner? He talks to the two brothers.
Yeah, he talks to the younger one because he can read him.
Right.
Yes.
Which one was that, Joe?
I don't remember.
Oh man,
we just don't want to say it out loud.
It's
we
all right.
have ideas, but we don't want to say it
It's
out
all right.
loud.
We know what we're talking about.
Yes.
So he has a conversation with him, and he says basically, look, it's him sussing the situation out. Like, I love that dance they did. Like, do you have something or not? Mm-hmm. We know that you're lurking around. We know that you're working on something in that crappy office. We know you're doing all these things. Like, either you have something. If you don't have it, then you're obstructing. If so tell me something. Like, look, I'm not going to tell you anything, but I just want to know.
If I call you,
will you pick up? No, will you take the call or will you do something about it? Because it's still unknown. Russ's whole theory this whole time is that, like, I don't know to trust.
Right.
Like, I don't know how deep this thing goes. This goes all the way back to the
senator.
To the
Tuttles, all the way up to the center Tuttle.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know to trust, but in that moment, it's like, can I trust you? And he's like, yes, I'll take the call myself. Did you believe him in that moment? Because I didn't. I didn't know.
You know what? I wasn't sure. I did. I kind of bought him a little bit, but because there's enough tough guy swag back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you. Well, fuck you. There was enough of that I kind of went, all right. Maybe he's gonna be real about it.
Right.
I think that they're so desperate to solve the case that call me if you have something that's viable that I can use that'll help me. Yeah, call me.
Yeah.
Do it.
So
because they have nothing.
They have nothing. Right. So they go out there, in the moment we've all been waiting for. They go out, they finally make it out to the house to find the monster that we thought was Reginald Ledoux, that we know now is Childress Jr. And we go out to the house and we get there, and it's as scary as you think it is. And Russ says, "This is the place."
I got to say, man, it goes as you kind of would expect it to. I guess I don't say predictable. I know that offends you, but I felt that there were so many opportunities.
You're the one guy in the entire universe.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Whole thing mapped out.
That's not what I'm saying.
Like hundreds and hundreds of writers and millions of viewers. And you had the whole thing mapped out.
All I'm trying to say is that Nick Pizzolatto clearly made a decision that he was not going to flip the plot on everybody in the last minute and pull the rug out from everybody and go, hey, you're invested 7 hours in all this. Everything you thought was bullshit. Flip the script. It's a totally different show. He didn't do that because the show wasn't about that. The show was not about a big plot twist at the end. It was about the characters all the way through and about throwing out these ideas.
I think that we, as television viewers, are conditioned to have something be like we want a twist, we want a double thing. So it didn't have to be this crazy conspiracy theories that we all as viewers thought. It's just a good old-fashioned detective story. However, there were so many, we talked about the visions he saw, and there's so many times a flat circle. There's so many different things that were laid out there for us. All the Yellow King references that I think that we were expecting, something, but I personally think they delivered it. We'll talk about that later. I know you're down to talk about it now.
All I was going to talk about was when they arrive and they split up, and then we go and we shoot. Go in the house, and the house I thought was fairly straightforward. She's crazy and she's terrified of her half brother, who's worse than anybody.
Right.
And where's your phone? Everybody has a phone. So obviously we find out Marty eventually does find a phone, but then in the meantime, we go into Carcosa. We go into this. It was a pre-Civil War fort, right?
Let me tell you about Carcosa.
Talk to us about Carcosa.
Okay, so I had to look it up because the setting was so rich, and that's not surprising, after 8 episodes of just stunning visuals. So
sure.
But this was just aesthetically incredible to me. So it exists. It's called Fort McComb.
Which I imagine will be given after this.
Yes, it was originally built in 1822, then renamed Fort Wood in 1827, with its current name, Macomb, being given in 1851. And the fort was occupied by a Confederate State of America garrison starting on yada, 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 during the American Civil War and retaken by the Union the following year, so in 1862. Right. And now it belongs to the state, and it's pretty.
I want to see it, but I do want to go back, because I think that we glossed over a lot that happened between the time they pulled over and the time they went and they actually got to Carcosa. I want to go back and talk about that initial canvassing. I mean, first of all, in addition to finding Carcosa as a location scout, that house, that whole area, I don't know if that was like an actual practical location or if they grew some foliage over there. That was, I don't ever want to go to anything that looks like that house, ever. With everything, with the overgrown this and the shed in the background. And when he said this is the place, I was like, I knew it was the place, and I still had chills. I was like, oh God. The scene where Hart goes to the door and he has a conversation. He try with the flower lady, and he tries to get.
I don't want to buy any of her flowers.
He finally ends up when
kicking the
door in because of the dog, and the dog gets out, goes down, he kicks the door in, he's like, clear the house. That whole situation was so incredibly intense because I had no idea what we were going to see in that house. I had no idea what she was capable of. I had no idea if we were going to see. I was terrified. We had that horrible moment when we see Childress painting the school, and he's looking at the kids, and that
little boy with the blue ball,
the boy just staring at him,
kicking to the side, curious.
And he's looking.
Don't be curious, kid.
I don't. But even the way he was looking at that kid was just enough to freak me the F out.
And he had another voice.
And the way that the kid was looking at him, I was having trouble reconciling in my head why a child would call him Spaghetti Monster from what we've seen. But in that angle, from that child's point of view, those scars, I don't know if they.
Oh, I see. They look like spaghetti.
Top. I don't know if there was a little extra makeup just for the scene to be seen from the child's point of view, but it was horrendous. And if you're a small child who's never seen anything like that, Spaghetti Monster. There it is.
That moment was as terrifying as anything.
Yeah.
So we see that we're actually going to go inside the house, and we see Hart going through the house and trying to clear the house itself, and at the same time trying to find the flower lady. That was as scary as anything. And simultaneously, you've got Cohle out there after Childress, which was also as scary as anything. These things happening simultaneously gave me a goddamn heart attack.
That moment when he caught Childress and he's pointing the gun at him and he tells him to stop and he just says, no. And he takes off.
I was like, and you knew that.
For a big man, he moved quick.
And you knew how that was going to go.
No.
But he did, when she tells him, he puts a gun to her head and he said, I need your phone. And she says, he's going to get you. He's better. I mean,
he's worse than anybody.
Worse than anybody.
Worse than everybody. She's giggling.
That was terrible. So now,
some grim shit.
So we go back. He obviously subdues her. We didn't know what he did to her at the time. We know if he shot her, and then we know now that he tied her up and got the phone, found the phone. But we do know that he went out to check things out. We got to see the Black Stars. On the side of the shed. We got to see the contents of the shed. We got to see all that stuff, and then we go into Joe Carcosa. And it was scary.
It was scary. Well, no, it was terrifying.
Yes.
And it was just the movement of the camera and the movement of that. You really felt the danger of it.
Right.
But I was very gratified at the end of it because the reveal was you didn't keep it cramped.
No.
We got into a nice open space for something to happen.
Right.
And then of course, in the meantime, Marty obviously gets to a phone of some sort. We find out later he starts making his way over. But yeah, what a shit time to have a hallucination, huh?
Sure. Well, and so in that moment, like this is the moment. This happened early on. I want to just get through this so we can get into the end and some of the theories and the monologue. But in that moment, that was the moment because we don't know if these guys are going to die. Are they both going to die? Is one guy going to die? Is it what's going to happen here? So they decided. I didn't think it was not predictable in that sense. They gave us all possibilities within that 5-minute span. I get every range of emotion in that 5-minute span. Once Cohle had that hallucination, he saw the nebula,
the nebula. I don't remember which one.
Like him looking at the universe, looking at time being a flat circle, I've seen stills of it. It could be 1,000 things, but a very profound vision. And then of course he gets shanked. And the level of how that was happening, that looked like he's not going to survive that at all. I just feel like in that moment, he was not going to survive it. He does get out. And then when he throws the axe at Hart, I thought the Hart's dead. So in that moment, like, wow, they both die. And then I'm like, oh, only Hart's going to survive. But then, of course, they both survive, and I think that was very poignant.
Because they can't survive without each other.
Exactly, Julia Cearley.
Thank you. I got something right.
Because they can't survive without each other.
There is no you.
Exactly. Full effing circle.
They have to save each other.
Yes. And for two guys who hate each other, there's me, there's you, at the end of the day, these are two guys who need each other, can't survive without each other. One guy was supposed to be dead. He's back, and they're together. Now, assuming if Nick Pizzolatto was just writing this as a novel, and this was just the first of many, Cohle and Hart novels, this would be just one hell of a story, and I'm sure these guys will go on to have many other private detective adventures, which I would love to see in book form, or graphic novel form, or maybe if we're lucky, True Detective season 10 or something, we'll see them come back. But you got the sense that this was just one crazy adventure. But then we get back to the hospital. And that's kind of a long epilogue. It's sort of an epilogue to the entire series, really. Because, we're at the 40-minute mark. The shit was done. The shit was back on the horse. We pretty much solved everything. We had a long epilogue for these guys to tie up all these friendship loose ends, existential loose ends, family loose ends. Joe.
I agree with you. But we didn't solve everything. We didn't find out who the other people were that were in the video. We didn't get to the senator. We didn't get to any of the Tuttles. We didn't get to any of the conspiracy that allowed Childress to exist in the first place.
Right.
And this is
which Russ was very upset about.
And that's what I said was going to happen last week, because I think there was no other way for this to end, because they will not be allowed to get the real players in this.
So is this what you mean? Can you tell me your this is predictable theory?
That's what I'm saying about this was a relatively predictable ending, I thought. I thought this is how it was going to go. I thought they were going to die, but other than that, I think it was pretty predictable.
Right.
I thought that I thought they were only going to get him. I thought that was going to be the end of it.
You didn't think they would take down the whole thing?
No, I told you last. I had no chance that was going to happen.
But you said it was predictable. The show wasn't about them taking down.
That's my point.
Okay.
That's my point. Is the show is not about them winning, them taking out everybody, and the show was not about that. The show was about these two guys on this hero's quest, and about being human. I think is ultimately what the show is about. No show on TV has spent this much time on existential crises over and over again, on an atheist versus a believer, a relatively pragmatic believer versus a full-blown committed atheist because his daughter was killed. And there's so many different philosophical explorations in this show. They're not there by accident. That's the whole point of the show, I think.
Jules?
I think, yes, it was a character-driven story, and that's what we're watching for, is these two detectives. But the story, the case is the murderer of Dora Lang, and they solved that. That was beginning, middle, end. It was about Dora Lang. That's what brought them together,
right.
and that's what tore them apart and broke them down, and solving the murder of Dora Lang. Yes, there's all these extenuating circumstances. Yes, it's much bigger than that, but when you get to that focus, it's about finding the killer of Dora. That's the case.
Right. So we have 7 minutes left. We have to get into. I just want to get into this monologue. I mean, so the guys both survive. They make it out. Hart's doing a lot better than Rust is. Rust is in the wheelchair, and they have that great moment where he brings them something. He brings them some camels, nicely wrapped, and
cigarettes. Cigarettes, worth pointing out.
Yes.
Had a little mind image.
Not camels.
Not a camel, for those of you who didn't watch the show. And we have the most, incredible, poignant exchange and deeply sad and uplifting monologue that I've ever seen.
There were two exchanges. I want to touch on the first one first because we're going to end with this. Marty does have his moment with the fam.
He does.
Maggie comes in with that enormous rock from, I'm guessing, her current husband.
Yeah.
And the two girls and Marty obviously hadn't seen anybody in a long time. And he's so glad you guys are here. I'm doing, and just boom, he breaks.
Yeah. Because this whole time, and it feels there's a giant sense of closure to this whole 17-year debacle, which is his life, the way he lived his life, what he went through while he was working the case, pre-case, marriage, family, what he held dear. Now that it seems to be closed, he can really sort of appreciate, even if he doesn't have them, they're all here for him, and he appreciates that family moment. I'm so glad that Hart as a character got to have that.
Me too.
It was just very gratifying to see him have that moment.
Absolutely.
And then second exchange.
Well, now let's get to Rust's monologue, because Rust is outside. He's confiding a little bit in Marty here that I should not be here. He said it a couple times, and Marty was sipping on the shake or the water in the hospital. He's like, yeah, all right, well there you are, and they fuck you, and they leave. But they get outside, and obviously Marty's getting checked out. Marty's done. Hart's still got a few days left. And he kind of comes clean. They get out from under the awning, and they're going to be out, the stars above him. And he comes clean about what he felt about his daughter and his father. You got the whole thing written down, don't you?
Yeah, I have. I have the whole thing. And it was. I mean, it was.
I mean, you don't have to go through the whole thing, but any particular things that stick out?
My favorite line of possibly this entire show was, "I could feel my definitions fading."
Oh yes. Well, here's the thing. Like, this is that.
My God.
I mean, that what happened to him, and I do believe it happened. I choose to believe that actually happened.
I choose to believe that happened too.
What happened to Cohle was just the most. It was amazing. The way he told that story, that monologue, was amazing, because it was the saddest thing and it was the most uplifting thing at the same time. The moment that, just to know that there's got to be an incredible comfort of knowing that I was on the other side. I felt my daughter. I felt family. I felt like I was there.
It was optimistic, because so much of this series has been him talking about, like, flat circle. We're going to do it again. It's never ending.
Is death the end? Death is not the end.
But
I hope
he
death is the end. I hope the lady's wrong.
That there is something on the other side for him.
And that's
for him
got to change this guy who the entire series has all been like, this is all, this is one marble gutter floating through space, and I hope she's wrong about death being the end. So it was like, in that moment, I was so happy that he got to have that moment, but it's also so sad because that moment was taken away from him. And, it's a weird, in the way he broke down, like, I wanted to go. Like, I felt it. I felt the love. I felt the warmth. I wanted to go.
And then I woke up.
But then I woke up. And it's like a weird, I've never been, so heartbroken by someone who didn't die. Like, for someone who lived. I'm like, wow, he lived. That's a bummer, because that sounded awesome.
But I'm glad
he lived. But also, it's cool that he lived, because now he can live this life knowing there's something else out there for him, and his loved ones are in a better place, and he feels in a better place. It's really profound, just what it was saying, to me in that moment, like, just, and then at face value. And of course, the way the words were exquisitely written, and the performance was phenomenally delivered.
Someone should give him an Oscar.
Emmys for everyone here.
Honest to God, that was so brilliantly done, and you felt every step of the way. But what I think is so imperative about, because our lives are so wrapped up in stories, and I think that's ultimately one of the big things that Nick Pizzolatto is talking about in this.
Right.
And we talk about. He talks about when he grew up in Alaska. He didn't watch TV till he was 17 years old. He's like, and Marty tells him, remember, you made up stories about the stars. Remember that?
Yep.
And stories are inherent to being human. That's part of how how we define and understand what's around us. Religious stories are how we define, or how we're being told to define things.
Sure.
One way or the other, the way our heads work, we need stories. Yeah. Every culture, throughout all of history, stories. That's how we process. And I think that this idea of exploring this profound life and death thing that we are all going to go through, every single one of us, and we all push it away. That's part of what we use stories for, is to push away the truth, the reality that we are all going to eventually die. We are all going to face, one way or the other, there is something or there is nothing. We are going to go there. Right. And I think it's interesting that Nick Pizzolatto takes one of our stories, one of the things we use to hide from this, to bring it into our faces. Right. Be like, this is real. This is going to happen to you. Someday you're going to see this, sooner or later, and here it is. And I think most of our television and stories are escapism, and we don't ever use the stories to see that anymore. Well, and I think that's part of what he was doing with this.
I think that I do agree with a lot of that. I mean, I have a final take, but Jules, do you have any thoughts on just sort of that last piece at all?
Well, are you talking about True Detective as a whole? Or
I'm talking about just the ending there, the end. Because
I was just so happy. I was so content with the fact that he finally got a glimpse of optimism and what life could be like, understanding that the light is winning.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
That he finally crawled out of this dark hole that he has been immersed in for 17 years and flipped the way in which he was looking at it. His last line is, well, once there was only dark. There was only dark. If you ask me, the light is winning. The light does puncture through.
And what's amazing about that, which is the point I was going to make as well, so I'm glad you made it, so I don't have to make it twice, but I will piggyback on that and saying what's amazing about that is, when Hart's the one who makes the observation, like, no, it looks like the dark's winning. Like, Hart is the one who says that, and then Russ kind of flips it at the end and says, actually, no. And like that's just for a guy who we know who this guy is, and as bleak as it was, know that he's looking at things in a different way. It just makes me so much want to get more of Hart and Russ. I would love to see Russ at the other end, him shaved up, the newly optimistic Russ, going out there and seeing how he interacts with Hart and going out and solving more cases. I want to see this. But also we got that beautiful pan up to the star, our motif about these black stars and the stars and everything else. I think it was just a beautiful, beautiful, poignant ending to a fantastic series. I don't know.
So good.
It was brilliant. So A+ all around for everybody.
Everybody gets a hat and an apple.
From HBO to Nick Pizzolatto to Cary Fukunaga to Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. We never mentioned that they were supposed to play opposite roles. I mean, people know this has been written around, but Matthew McConaughey was supposed to play Hart, but then he begged and said, "I'll do this only if I get to play Rust." And I think the right decision was made there.
I think so too.
I think that was a good move. So I'm very happy that it happened. So we don't have predictions, but we will. I think we'll have some fun with predictions and say who we'd like to see. Look, let's jump into predictions.
Oh.
I can't help but feel that you're just being mean.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I just want to know who would you guys like to see in season 2, or who would you like to see? Just really quickly. You can throw out some names. Anybody.
Oh God.
Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise. Just give me some names.
Thought I was off the hook here for predictions for most of my life.
We need 2 actors, 2 directors. Go.
William Shatner.
2 actors, 1 director.
I'd fight Shatner. I'd fight William Shatner. Let me think.
You can get some Bradley Cooper in there. He could do something.
I could see some Bradley Cooper.
Okay, and who? I'll let you guys go together.
Let's
it's
get a
taking
girl.
too long.
Let's get a girl in there.
Okay.
What would be great would be from Fargo. What's her name?
Frances McDormand?
Yes.
Frances McDormand and Bradley Cooper. Good.
Boom.
Directed by who?
That's a tough one.
All right, you guys suck. I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna break some stuff over here.
No, actually, I would like to see some women for sure. I'd like to see some people of color. I'd like to see some sort of combination, and whether or not they stay with Louisiana or stay somewhere else, I'd like to see some people of color to some women, and maybe even a woman director. Maybe even I don't know. Maybe it's Bigelow. Maybe it's someone like that. So I don't know. I just really interested to see how Nick's words translate through another actor and another visionary. But Cary Fukunaga killed the game. Did a great job on that.
Just brilliant.
Thank you so much for putting up with us for these 8 episodes of True Detective. We, like you, are very, very excited about the next season, next year, we presume, or whenever HBO decides to do it. You can rate us, you can download us, you can listen to us. We appreciate you. We do some other shows here as well. We do Hannibal, and we do The Blacklist, and we do Bates Motel, and we do The Americans. So check those out. Yeah, I guess. And we do... So check us out there. Joe, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Joe Flippo, JoeFlippo, and my website is josephsanflippo.com.
That was good. Julia.
That was good. That was
Thank
fast. Twitter and Instagram, my name, Julia Cearley, Juliacearley, and then with these dudes doing lots of shows.
Yes,
right
and I'm
here.
Joe Braswell. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joe K. Braswell. I tried to stay on the mic this time. Thank you for all those who said stay on the mic, Joe. I tried to stay on the mic. I really appreciate all you guys listening to us and downloading us. Please continue to do so. We'll see you next time. Good.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.